Cardano taking a little bit of a breather here to touch back on the 50-day moving average. This might be probably one of the best accumulation zones we have ever seen. Why? Well, for starters, Pavia, Cardano's first metaverse project, reports that there are now over 22,000 landowners or unique wallet holders of Pavia.io. Pavia, which officially launched as the Cardano Metaverse in January, was named after Pavia, the 1501 birthplace of Girolamo Cardano in Italy. With over 900,000 NFT projects, more NFTs have been minted on the NFT Maker platform. Such an increase in the volume of minted pieces of non-fungible art and projects is tied to both the growth of the Cardano network and the returning popularity of the NFT industry. Charles, in a recent interview, stated, "Remember how I said Cardano would have thousands of assets and dApps? Well, I was mistaken. Millions of native assets have been granted, and dApps number in the hundreds." According to Hoskinson, Cardano's ecosystem would reach unprecedented heights as a result of the Vasil hard fork. Many Cardano dApps are just waiting for the Vasil hard fork to launch in June so that they can profit from pipelining, he said, adding that the growth in TVL might just be getting started. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about what is pipelining, where is Cardano now in transaction speeds, and where will it be in just a few months, and what does it mean for the Cardano network. As its weekly upward march continues, Cardano has scheduled a hard fork for the summer of 2022 with an aim of growing the Cardano protocol and significantly increasing its transaction throughput, and with it, volume and liquidity. Named after the Bulgarian mathematician Vasil Dabov, who was also a Cardano community member, the Vasil hard fork is set for June of 2022 and will introduce what is called diffusion pipelining. The company's founder, Charles Hoskinson, tweeted on March 22nd. Cardano's researcher, Fitzy, explained the concept in a post published on the company's blog on March 21st. Cardano's first method of accomplishing these increased transaction sizes was to increase the block size limit to fit more transactions per block, with the block size already being expanded by 25% in 2022 and more expansions coming up. However, in order for the block production rate to remain at the current level, there are limitations to how large a block can be securely maintained by a ledger consensus protocol. Diffusion pipelining promises to substantially increase throughput while being achievable by minimally invasive changes to the Cardano ecosystem. With major inflow pushing into Cardano's newly created staking pools, it is amounting to around 1.5 billion ADA, which is more than $1.4 billion. Such a large amount potentially indicates an increased interest coming from larger market players and corporations. On March 26th, a statistic report was released showing that before the first Shelley hard fork in July 2020, ADA had risen by 500%, and that before Mary in March 2021, it had risen by 1,100%. While the most recent Alonso update saw the DeFi asset rise by 135% and reach an all-time high of $2.96. The Cardano blockchain has undergone tremendous growth over the previous year, and as indicated by the rise in number of wallets holding the network's native token, ADA. But what can we expect for the Vasil upgrade in June? Well, as we've seen historically, Cardano increases significantly prior to a hard fork. Notably, in the first quarter of 2022, the largest proof-of-stake asset added 453,000 wallets between January 1st where the number of wallets stood at 2,666,000. And March 31st, the wallet addresses were up to 3.2 million, according to the statistics from the Cardano blockchain insights, indicating that within this time, Cardano added over 5,000 wallets a day to its network, resulting in a 19.76% rise in the total number of wallets in just Q1 alone. So what is this Vasil hard fork, and what can we expect for the Cardano network? Diffusion pipelining, scheduled for this summer, will increase the budget for block propagation and validation times, allowing for larger blocks and increased transaction throughput. The recent enabling of smart contracts on Cardano has led to a significant increase in user activity. Simultaneously, average transaction sizes grew due to code-carrying script transactions, with their first decentralized finance DeFi applications now deployed on the Cardano ecosystem and more on the way. We expect this trend to continue. To keep up with this elevated demand, the system's current transaction throughput must be increased. An obvious approach to increasing transaction throughput is to increase the block size limit to fit more transactions in per block. Block size has already been increased 25% this year, from 64 kilobytes to its current 80 kilobytes, and we anticipate further increases. However, there is a limit on how large a block can be securely maintained by a ledger consensus protocol if the block production rate is to be kept at the current level. To achieve high throughput without compromising the security of the system, additional measures are required. To understand why, we need to take a closer look at how ledger consensus works in general. So this is the article which you can research yourself, and it goes into some of the details here. But in typical protocols, to argue consistency for consensus, the propagation of a prior block must finish before the next block is generated, at least most of the time. So essentially, diffusion pipelining increases the budget for block propagation and validation times. So it increases the time that the block has to settle a transaction, allowing for larger blocks and thus for increased transaction throughput, while leaving the consensus rules unchanged. It promises to substantially increase throughput while being achievable by minimally invasive changes to the system. While pipelining won't be the end-all be-all, it is a great first step to onboard hundreds of dApps and millions of users. Additionally, asynchronous validation will offer additional throughput following the Vasil hard fork. It provides maximum use of block size and seamlessly maximizes the potential of the network, setting the stage for Mamba and Hydra Layer 2 solutions. These enhancements provide the Cardano network the efficiency it needs to handle the influx of millions of native assets and hundreds upon hundreds of dApps. But the Cardano roadmap is just getting started. DC Spark's Milkamita and IOG's Mamba are two EVM sidechains set to launch on the Cardano network this year. In terms of memory CPU parameters, IOHK claims that there are memory improvements in unspent transaction output, or UTXO management, stake distribution, live stake distribution, and pools and hash representation. So a lot of upgrades taking place currently on the Cardano network. But what does it all mean? Where will it take us by the end of this year? Hydra. The people who run the network, in the case of Cardano, the stake pool operator community, need to be rewarded appropriately for the part they play. So fees need to be set at a sustainable level. Users want to pay fees they deem acceptable. In addition, the blockchain needs to be protected against denial of service attacks or DOS attacks. Fees can therefore not be set too low as to open up undue risk to the network. DOS events must be made prohibitively costly to a potential attacker. Storage is also a concern, as an ever-growing transaction history can lead to storage problems. Effectively, the most successful blockchains risk becoming victims of their very success. Hydra is a layer 2 scalability solution that seeks to address all of these concerns and aims to maximize throughput, minimize latency, incurring low to no additional costs, and greatly reducing the overall storage requirements. So Hydra is efficient means of processing transactions off-chain for a set of users, while using the main chain ledger as the secure settlement layer. Hydra keeps security guarantees while remaining loosely coupled to the main chain. Not requiring global consensus, it can adapt to a broad range of applications. For example, Hydra allows transaction fees and minimum UTXO value to be configured as low as 1 or 2 Lovelaces, critical to microtransactions and the use cases these unlock. Most importantly, though, Hydra introduces the concept of isomorphic state channels, that is, to reuse the same ledger representation to yield uniform off-chain ledger siblings, which we call Hydra heads. Hence, Hydra, which references the mythological multi-headed creature. Specifically for Cardano, this means that native assets, non-fungible tokens, and Plutus scripting are available inside each Hydra head. Isomorphism permits a natural extension of the system rather than a bolted-on one. Many of the transactions currently handled by the main chain or application running on the main chain can benefit directly from Hydra because it understands just the same transaction formats and signatures. This greatly lowers the entry barrier to Hydra for existing and potential new customers who can reuse Cardano's tried and tested infrastructure for building wallets and applications interacting with the layer 2 system. A Hydra head can be created without initial funds on the receiving party's side, which allows for a smooth user experience. I think it's also important to make a point about transactions per second here. All too often, rather ignorantly, used as a sole measure of success when it comes to scalability in blockchain space, some people tend to rate a network on the basis of its maximum throughput measured in TPS, as we have seen with some very notable blockchains in the very recent in the past couple of weeks, months. Transactions per second don't always account to reliability. While TPS is a reasonable measure for legacy systems where there is high predictability and conformity, such as Visa or MasterCard, it is a less useful metric for distributed systems. On the mainnet, minimum latency is around 20 seconds, which is 1 block. This is the starting point for improving transaction throughput. In a layer 2 system like Hydra, it is possible to achieve confirmation times of less than 1 second. Terms like 1 million TPS have been used before. It is a bold number, and while this remains an aspirational target, the ultimate goal of any system is the flexibility to grow capability with demand. Throughput measured in TPS per Hydra head is secondary and mostly limited by the available hardware. In principle, by adding increased numbers of Hydra heads to the system, arbitrarily high throughput can be achieved by the system as a whole. So Cardano's team is researching ways to interconnect multiple Hydra heads to increase the reach of their layer 2 solution. For example, it is also testing different methods to make it easier to integrate and use Hydra. One of the most exciting visions for the long term is the development of virtual heads by running the Hydra head protocol inside Hydra heads, thus fully utilizing the isomorphism of Cardano's layer 2 solution. Here lies the true theoretical limitless scalability for Cardano's network. So, Cardano 14 teams have been working on different elements within the Cardano ecosystem. Hydra is expected to process transactions on the Cardano network in an efficient manner. Since most transactions will be processed off-chain, Hydra will use the Cardano blockchain just to secure settlement. Cardano's second layer 2 sidechain is Mamba, which is an entire sidechain strategy for Cardano. IOHK has been researching and experimenting with sidechains for several years at this point. Mamba represents the culmination of that work into a definitive strategy. In explaining Mamba, Hoskinson said that it will offer users the ability to create their own sidechains. But Mamba is really the first time in the project's history where we've converged to a point where we have a very crystallized view of not only how to connect the chains together, how to operate the sidechain, but then also a generic footprint that if the user wants to create their own sidechain, how that process works is how Hoskinson put it in this AMA. Leading on from that, Hoskinson said that it is exciting because it enables sidechain operators, which could include SPOs, to generate separate revenue streams. If you have sidechains that have their own tokens and tokenomics, and you're a stake pool operator, and you're operating not just Cardano, but also other sidechains, it means that you actually get multiple token revenue streams for running your consensus node. Future sidechains will include the Catalyst project, which is a community-driven launchpad that uses treasury funding to support promising new contracts. There will also be many memory improvements in unspent transaction output handling, stake distribution, and live stake distribution. The extensive UTXO model includes enhancements to the Plutus scripting language. The improvements are reference inputs, Proposal 0031, CIP 0032, and CIP 033, set to be launched this year in the summer. There will be node enhancements to smooth out the stake and distribution reward computations. Some parts of the protocol state will be stored on a disk, which means that systems will have limited RAM will be able to operate nodes in the event that they have sufficient storage, and scalability will no longer be a problem. On the Cardano blockchain, block size was recently increased from 8 kilobytes to 72, which was a 12.5% increase. And DC Sparks, Milkamita, and IOG's Mamba are just two EVM sidechains set to launch on the Cardano network this summer. In terms of the CPU parameters, IOHK claims that there are memory improvements in the UTXO management stake distribution that can be accessed as well. So the Vasil hard fork will be providing the Cardano network with the much needed much needed upgrades to the UTXO transaction speeds. But what will it mean for the price? Well, as we've seen historically, every time that a hard fork approaches, we see significant uh, increases in price. And right now, we are approaching a touchback, a RS flip on the 50-day moving average, which may be a great buying opportunity for investors. We will continue to keep an eye on the transaction volume to see where this is going to go. But if we do fall through the 50, we may come back to test the 80-cent mark as a final bottom floor. Zilliqa has just come off of its parabolic run with gains over 380%. But as we can see on the network, daily transactions have fallen from 78,000 to around 24,000 per day. Smart contract execution has also fallen from a high of 19,700 down to around 2,684. Total value locked is around 662 million, with 31% of this circulating supply currently being staked. There's $690 million locked in the Zilliqa's decentralized application dApps, and the token economy size is around 466 million. There are currently 71,000 active users on Zilliqa, a total number of addresses around 5.5 million. With the release of Metapolis this past week, Zilliqans are getting ready for 2022. But one thing to keep in mind about the Metapolis is that this is a metaverse as a service, not a metaverse itself. So did breed some stuff going on with social media. People were getting a little upset that they couldn't navigate Metapolis currently. That is because Zilliqa has created Metapolis, which is a metaverse as a service and not a metaverse itself, or a working product, so to speak. Nervos Network's partnership with SwiftChain is looking to deliver interoperability as a solution across the crypto ecosystem. You want to move your assets from Ethereum to SwiftChain? What about from SwiftChain to Nervos? Nervos back to SwiftChain and back to Ethereum? This new partnership will allow users to do all of that. This agreement between the projects does have the potential to offer users interoperability at its finest on a scale that few other projects can offer. So what is going on with the Nervos network? As you guys know, CKB is a layer one solution, a layer one network that called the Common Knowledge Base, that provides interoperable solutions and bridges across the crypto space. It is currently operating Godwoken and Polyjuice and ForceBridge, which allows users to move freely between Cardano, Ethereum, and other chains. So what does this partnership mean? Well, this partnership will allow Nervos Network to enter the Cosmos ecosystem as well. The Cosmos ecosystem is currently responsible for no fewer than 42 different tokens. Software developers love the Cosmos software development kit. That's part of the reason why not only are there so many different projects living on Cosmos, but several of them have multi-billion-dollar market caps. So Nervos will now enter into the Cosmos ecosystem as it continues to operate in the Ethereum, Avalanche, and Cardano ecosystems. Very exciting times for the Nervos network, and Nervos network comes in at a reasonable 1.2 cents today. Taking a quick look at the Nervos price, doing something similar here to the other chains with just coming back to test that 50 and as support, and as long as everything holds well, we should see a bounce forward. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys have a lovely, lovely day. Come on.